So, morning again, Glory. Good to see you. And as I like to say to you, even though the lights are low, you look beautiful. I mean, you guys, it's okay. So good to be together. And as we're in this time of year, this Advent time, as I mentioned earlier, as we were beginning our worship, that we're really celebrating the fact that Jesus has come, right? We're talking about unwrapped Christmas. We know the story. You see the little images in the story of the sweet baby Jesus and all that, so we know that he has come. And what we're beginning to talk about and to remember is that he's going to come again. But in the meantime, we celebrate the fact that he is with us always. So it's like Jesus has come, he's coming, he's here right now. Every moment of every day he's coming. And so as I was thinking about these things and about all of that waiting and everything, a couple of things came to my mind, and one is my late father-in-law, Thomas Metellus Weinbrenner, and his guitar. So I'm going to pull out Tell Weinbrenner's guitar. Now, I should tell you that I am an air guitar virtuoso. And when I play air guitar, I usually have it slung low. The guitar's like down here. Yeah. And actually, my father-in-law has it up here. So the strap, if I had not had a strap malfunction just now, this would be like this up here on me, and it really kind of cramps my style because I like it down here. But anyway, I was thinking about my father-in-law, and I was thinking about Tom Petty, the late Tom Petty. Anybody here like Tom Petty? Yeah. Now, Tom Petty, the late Tom Petty, I first became acquainted with when I was in high school. And his song, American Girl, I think was the first one I ever heard him do. I kind of like the sound of it and everything. I think he played Rickenbacker guitars. I don't know if those are good guitars or not. Nick is saying very good, so take his word for it. This is a national, so I don't know about that, except I know that my father, late father-in-law, made this guitar sing. And he sang too. So anyway, in respect for my father-in-law and Tom Petty, I just wanted to hold the guitar. I can't play it, but I can hold it. So anyway, I'll just set that right there for you, that you can experience Tell Weinbrenner and worship in this way today. But I was thinking about that song that Tom Petty sang, The Waiting is the Hardest Part. Every day you get one more card. You take it on faith, you take it to the heart. The waiting is the hardest part. And think about how much of your life, our life, is about waiting, watching. We wait. It seems sometimes like we're waiting forever. It taxes our patience. It tests our resolve. Waiting. Part of the season, part of the theme of the season of Advent is waiting. And we heard that in the scripture that Rochelle read, this watching and waiting aspect. Waiting can be hard. In the scriptures, we've got all kinds of examples of waiting. In the Old Testament, in the Psalms, we hear about glory comes in the morning and watching as the watchman watches for the sun to rise in the morning. We've got images of the father watching for his prodigal son who took off and left the country, the home country, and the home place, and took off with his inheritance before he was supposed to have it, but did it anyway. And that father, day after day, watching and waiting for his son to come home. And of course, he finally does. We know, and perhaps you've heard the story of Jesus in the garden before his crucifixion, inviting some of the disciples with him to watch with him through the night as he prayed in Gethsemane. It's a big part of not only our life, but our faith, waiting. Watching. And it's tough when you're waiting for the prognosis or the diagnosis. When you're dealing with a pink slip, a change that you hadn't expected, something rather cataclysmic that you never thought could ever occur, and there it is. Such is life. And those words that Rochelle read, and if you were to read earlier in that chapter 13 of Mark's Gospel, you see and you read some mind-blowing things. I mean, you're looking and reading that, and you're like, whoa, I hope I don't live to see this stuff happen, because this sounds scary. And sometimes we're kind of in between. We're wondering if if this is all talking about something that's already happened or something that's going to happen. So is this word something that has already been accomplished, or is it something that's going to happen yet? Because when we think about those things that might happen yet, again, we're like, wow, the bloody moon and all these stars falling and this and that. I don't want any of that, we might think. It's scary, and yet think about the times in which we live. Fear of the cataclysm, fear of the destruction, wondering if we're going to make it tomorrow, wondering if we're going to be here next week. Watching, waiting, sometimes even worrying about what's coming. And so we live. And we anticipate what God hopefully will do in the midst of all of that. When Jesus uttered these words, the church was living in a time in the midst of a threat of war, in a time of great persecution, but also in a time when the mission of the church was expanding. So there was this excitement about what God was doing and how the Lord was transforming lives in the midst of this great threat of war and persecution and people straying from the faith. And so Jesus talked about this temple that's going to be destroyed. And it frightened people. It shook the very foundations of the people who first heard this, because to say that the temple was going to be destroyed was basically like saying the presence of God was going to go away. It unsettled the people because there was this massive edifice called the temple. And when they heard about it that it's going to be desecrated and it's going to be tumbling down, and to think that this was a unique presence and place of God and that was going to go away was frightening, unsettled. People didn't know what to believe. You see, what happened was, because of Jesus, he in fact is replacing the temple as the place of the presence of God. The temple wasn't going to be needed anymore in that respect because Jesus was coming. He was the unique presence of God. When people heard that, though, they were afraid. They didn't know what to think. They began to think that there was no plan, there was no hope, there was no purpose. But what Jesus communicated was, there is a plan, there is a purpose, and it is housed in me. You see, in some respects, these things that are described in this passage that Rochelle read have already happened. The temple, in fact, was destroyed around the year 70. There, in fact, were desecrations and desolations within its precinct. Some awful things that happened. People were unsettled and unsure. But Jesus told people these things would happen so that they would understand that there is a plan. And that He is the plan. And that He is the hope. That He is the light, and the darkness cannot overcome it. As we celebrate Advent, we celebrate the light coming. It's one of the images that we talk about in Advent. But we also have to come to terms with the darkness, because you and I, we've known of a lot of darkness, right? Whether or not those things that have been prophesied have already happened, we know that there's still stuff going on in the world that ain't good. We know there is threat of war. We know there is rampant disease. We know that there are people whose lives feel like they're meaningless because they don't know what's coming. They don't know what is. All we have to do is flip on the news, and we feel unsettled in some degree, possibly. And so in some respects, these things are yet to come. I do believe that Jesus wanted people to understand, He wanted us to understand, that we are not to be thrown off center when these things happen, because they're going to happen. But there was something that decisively happened on a cross in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. On a given day, after the process, if you will, had begun, darkness threw its greatest and most decisive punch against God. God in the flesh had been walking in our midst. Think about that. The very God of the universe came into a life like ours, became a life like ours, into this mess, and on a real day, in a historic day, in time, God in the flesh was nailed to a cross, It was the worst day of your life. I know it's kind of hard to get our heads around. It was the worst day in your life when Jesus was nailed to the cross. It was the most decisive, most difficult, the hardest thing that evil could do to God. It's like he summoned all his forces, this evil one, this one of darkness. He took everything he had, every piece of ammo that he had, every act of aggression that he could come up with, every scheme that he could conceive. And on that day, in that place, in Jerusalem, on that cross, he said, this is it. I'm going to take care of hope. I'm going to take care of life. I'm going to kill love. And I'm going to do it on this day. And there he was. There was hope. There was life. There was love. He died. And the one of darkness probably thought, oh, I got it now. They're not going to have any chance but to worship me. I'll be the only one left. But don't you know that in a tomb, that body would not stay. Because the light is stronger than the darkness.
Yes.
The light cannot be put out. Whenever I hear a song, the ones that this beautiful band plays, they're geared toward God, right? We hear promises and we sing of hope and all the good things. I would suggest to you that every human being is wired for God. Every human being has within them this capacity, actually this longing to worship. And not only a longing to worship, but a longing to be one with God. And so even though we sing songs about our faith and it's awesome, I would suggest to you that all the songs that are out there that are written by people that are trying to express their heart and their mind are really trying to find a way to express their longing for God. Now, sometimes that longing gets twisted and perverted, right? Sometimes people sing about things that you're like, really? You're singing that? My kids are listening to that? I'm rocking that. I got my windows down, and I'm like, yeah. I would say that a lot of that is just people trying to express this emptiness that they have when they're looking at the field. This longing. This watching and waiting that can't be fulfilled. I want to get it out of me. I want to be one with God. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to express it. And so when I heard that Tom Petty song so long ago, the waiting is the hardest part. I take all these non-Christian music songs and I always change the words in my head when I listen to them. I make them Christian songs. I do that. You can do that too. But I do that. Because again, I believe that all these songs represent a longing. The waiting is the hardest part. Every day you get one more card. You take it on faith, you take it to the heart. The waiting is the hardest part. Our oldest son, Eli, was born on August 6th, 1990. And it wasn't long before Eli was born that the Iraqis invaded Kuwait. I remember I was on my way to a church meeting one evening. All the pastors in the room were saying, I believe that. On the way to a meeting one night, and I heard the news break in about the first strikes. As I thought about this passage, I thought about something that President Bush said. After Iraq had invaded Kuwait, I believe there were 100,000 troops reported that went in. On the day before Eli was born, President Bush stood in the White House, I believe the Rose Garden, and he said something. He said this: I view this situation very seriously. Not just that, but any threat to any other countries, as well as I view very seriously our determination to reverse out this aggression. And then he said two things that strike me. He said, this will not stand. This aggression will not stand. And then he said, I've got to go. I've got to go to work. You see, Jesus, I believe, shared this for us, not only to prepare us for what is and what will be, but to help us to understand that the call, the decisive time, is right now for us to live our faith, to follow Jesus, and to share our faith. I believe that ever since the disruption in the Garden of Eden, the evil one has been aggressive against humanity. He's been aggressive. And even though he has been decisively for all time finished off, even though there's nothing more that God is going to do or needs to do to get rid of the devil, because on that cross, the devil was defeated. That devil is still trying to mess you up. And he's still trying to mess us up. See it all the time. There is darkness, but it cannot overcome the light. And we stand here and remind ourselves, this work has been done. But in verse 31, here's what Jesus says. Basically, he points out that if his words will outlive heaven and earth, if his words will outlive the cosmos, then that tells me that no matter what happens, now or in the future, he has already come. He is already here. The decisive presence has come, and all the darkness, all the evil will not stand. It will not stand because Jesus has come. But you're saying to me, no, I know, Tom, I hear you. These are such nice words you speak, and yet, here's how I feel. Here's what I see. What am I going to do? And all I can tell you, friend, is to have hope. And to believe that there is a plan. To believe that he's not left you. He has not left us. This aggression by the evil one will not stand. So we got to go to work. And sometimes you got to go to work on yourself. To remind yourself that there is hope. That there is a reason to wait. That it is an active waiting. It is a watchful waiting. That there is work to be done. There is work to be done to show the world that there is this peculiar people who are people of the light, not of the darkness. We're not buying into the narrative that everything's gloomy, everything's bad, everything's negative, all is suffering. We're not the people. Oh, we acknowledge that these things happen, absolutely, but we say, no, they're not the last word. This will not stand because I know my Redeemer lives. He is the light of the world. He has come, he is here, and he will come again. You know, as I was thinking about this, Tom Petty, I don't know why you got it in my head so much, about this whole waiting, but I thought of another song that he sang, Here Comes My Girl. Here comes my girl. Actually, as a brief aside, I had all these on LP vinyl. And I was all excited because, like, I thought I was going to get them back. I don't know what happened to the albums. Rats! Comes my girl. But like I said a moment ago, you know how I kind of take words and I change them and I kind of listen and look for the longing that people have for God and the words that they're singing, even though they may not be thinking a bit about God at all when they do so. I want you to hear this phrase from Here Comes My Girl. Here's what Tom Petty's saying. Every time it seems like there ain't nothing left no more, I find myself having to reach out and grab hold of something. Yeah, I just catch myself wondering and waiting and worrying about some silly little thing that don't add up to nothing. And then she looks me in the eye and says, we're going to last forever. And man, you know, I can't begin to doubt it. No, because it just feels so good and so free and so right. I know we ain't never going to change our minds about it. Hey, here comes my girl. And I think, oh, does not that speak to our faith? Watching, waiting, worrying, Sometimes about real big things, absolutely, but sometimes about a whole bunch of little things that don't add up to nothing. And they're taking us off the course, off the path, off the hope. And then she says, oh, wait, and then he says, we're going to last forever. He says that you're going to last forever because you believe in him. He says that even though things look dark right now, it ain't going to last forever. This isn't going to stand. You see, because this is my word, and I have come, and I'm coming, and I want you to wait and to watch. Oh no, I don't want you to watch and wait and worry about a whole bunch of stuff. I want you to focus on me. I'm telling you that I'm coming. Here comes my Savior, he said. We sing with Tom Petty, here comes my Savior. Here comes my Savior. The light in the darkness. And the darkness can't overcome it. Here he comes. Can you hear it? Here he comes. Can you feel it? Here he comes. Can you sense it? Here he comes. Here he comes. I ain't going to change my mind about it. And I pray you don't either. Lord, we thank you for loving us so much that even on this day, we can celebrate your presence with us as we celebrate Holy Communion. We're thankful that you've come, Lord. You've decisively come into history to say, this is my world. And these are my people. And we thank you that you're going to come again. And oh, Lord, how we long for it. We long to be one with you, one with each other. And so we thank you, God, that the decisive battle has been fought, that you have won, that darkness has been defeated. And even though there are these pesky things and hard things that still occur, that in the end, you are. You are. Because you are, we can be. Here comes our Savior.